I'm Richard Gearhart, an intellectual property attorney specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not an attorney, but I work at Gearhart Law doing the marketing, and I have my own startup.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, the road to entrepreneurship, where we talk with innovators, small businesses, and discuss the intellectual property that helps them flourish. Tonight, we have as our very special guest, John Rossman, who actually worked at Amazon and now is the founder of Rossman Partners. So he has a lot of very interesting information about Amazon and also how to maximize your company's digital prospects.
And after that, we have two presenters with great things. So for all of you people that want to get up and exercise out there or need to after being stuck at home in COVID wearing your sweats, we have Hami Mahani with 6 a.m. Run.
I love that name. I think it's amazing.
I know, it's very cool. And then for all of you people who found out that networking virtually is really kind of the way to go, we have Colleen Valadez with Preferred Networking Solutions, but she has a twist to hers that makes it very popular with people. So can hardly wait to hear this.
Sounds great. But before we get to our distinguished guests today, we're going to be doing IP in the news. And so what IP is in the news today?
Well, this is a trademark issue. Would you rather have a taco from Taco John's or Taco John's?
Taco John's? Who is Taco John's?
So Taco John's is this nationwide taco chain. I don't think it's in every state, but it's in a lot of states. So it has a federal trademark on.
They have 220 stores across the country.
Right. So federal trademark on Taco John's. So in Minnesota, somebody opened a restaurant called Taco Chon, C-H-O-N.
Right. And so at first I was kind of like, well, what is this about? So I looked up the word Chon just to see if it's like a real word. And it's not. There's a band called Chon that plays sort of this actually really cool progressive music. It's sort of in between jazz and rock. If you've ever heard like the band Yes, I hate to date myself, but they sound sort of like that. And then the other term for Chon stands for the acronym for the most prevalent molecules in the body. So C for carbon, H for hydrogen, O for oxygen, and N for nitrogen. And so sometimes scientists use that term for that. But other than that, there's no real word for Chon. So
except it rhymes with John.
Right. So I think something's going on here. The standard for trademark infringement, by the way, is similarity in sight, sound, and meaning. And, you know, while it does seem like he's trying to capitalize on Taco John, the actual trademark test may be more favorable to him than you think, because the word Chon and John look different. They sound similar, but they also have different meanings. John is a person and Chon is who knows. So it'll be interesting to see how this one works out in court. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to our distinguished guest. John, what is your opinion of this? Do you have any comments?
Sure. It sounds to me like they may have a case because it does sound similar and sound confusing. I have no idea kind of what the litmus test relative to something like that, but the fact that I needed to hear it a couple of times to just understand the subtle differences between the two names tells me that there may be an issue here.
Yeah, and certainly, I'm sure since your first name is John, you wouldn't want to be called Chon, right? So, I mean, there is that.
I honestly, I would take it. I've been called a lot worse.
I could just see it after.
As long as it's not said in anger, I'll take it.
After a few beers, are you at Taco John's? Yeah, I'm at Taco John's. No, wait.
I'll have the double large Chon, please, for my. So. Kenya, what are your thoughts about this?
Oh, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, it sounds so complicated, right? You think it would be such a simple thing, but I guess my question for you, Richard, is I know when it comes to the name and the spelling of something, it's probably easier to demonstrate whether someone was the first one to create it or not. But is there a way to distinguish audibly who has creative ownership versus another person? Because it sounds like a kind of a gray area.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Kenya. It really is a gray area. And, it's for the same goods and services, basically. It's for Mexican food. The restaurants are within a mile of each other. And, unless he has a good explanation for picking the word Chan, it sounds to me like it's kind of maybe trying to capitalize on Taco John's advertising. So yeah, and the audible part is definitely part of the test. And so I would just have to. He swears that he's going to fight this in court and represent himself. So
wow,
you can kind of see where this
he's
is
going to
going.
represent himself. Okay, well,
it's like good luck.
Although
One man standing against corporate America.
I usually do pretty good arguing against lawyers.
You usually defeat me, that's for sure. So, well, that's great. Hami Mahani, could you
Yes.
please comment on all of this stuff?
I can't help but think Coming to America, McDonald's versus McDowell's. If anyone remembers that.
No.
It's probably one of the funniest parts of that movie with Eddie Murphy, one of his first great movies. I think just again, as a business owner and more of a newer entrepreneur, I think you try so hard when you're creating something. I can definitely see where Taco John's is coming from. Taco John's is definitely, it just seems like he did this for the attention and he got what he wanted. So I think both people, I just feel like this is the sad part is that when you then go into legal and law and, then just the lawyers kind of become the winners, right? Both parties are probably going to end up really losing a lot of money, maybe customers. But as a business owner, you do try so hard. You build something and you put blood, sweat, and tears in it. I know we bought, 5amrun.com and 4 a.m. Like we bought all these things. We bought 6 a.m. Lyft, 6 a.m. ride. We do so much to protect ourselves from this type of thing, and knock on wood, we're lucky it hasn't happened to us. But this is it in a weird way. It also breaks my heart to see that this is going on, because entrepreneurs try so hard to protect themselves from this. And I think that Taco John's is just trying to get exposure and, capitalize and get, make a story out of this and make a quick buck. And that's really a shame for I don't want to say legitimate business owner, but you guys probably know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your comments are really well taken. Colleen, what are your thoughts?
Well, all of this is fabulous. I just love being in the morning, learning all these new rules, and I find this fascinating. So when you said similarity, sight, sound, and meaning, I thought, wow, those are 4 really important components, and they definitely have similarity, sight, sound, but the meaning is totally different. So he could get away with this on a technicality, right? And why they didn't call it Chan Tacos instead of Taco Chan, knowing that it was really similar and they're 1 mile down the road, is going to probably be the big question. Like, what was your intention with that? So I don't know. It's going to be the WWE of taco, right?
The lettuce will be flying.
Yeah, I guess they'll resolve this by food fight or maybe a taste test. I don't know.
But can we also find out, like someone in Minnesota, whose tastes better is what I want to know.
Yeah, me
there
too.
you go.
Me too.
So that's
what the judge should say. Bring me a taco. We'll decide whose name stays.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be great?
Tacos at dawn.
It's definitely the modern day version of McDonald's versus McDowell's. That's what he was referring to from the movie. Golden Arches versus the Golden Arcs.
But we all know who the winner is going to be, which is who's got the bigger legal budget, right? Like that at the end of the day, that's going to be who can stay in the fight the longest.
Yeah.
Sadly, I think you're right. Yeah.
That's definitely a part of it. And
I really feel like Taco John's deserves to protect their name on this one.
Yeah. And I mean, to Colleen's point, how, they could have chosen a different name. And the article says that, Taco John's did approach him, multiple times and really tried to work out something. You can, when you're in a situation like this, you can sometimes add a third word, rearrange the words. There's other ways to avoid, trademark infringement. It doesn't always end up in court. If it was taco and enchilada John's or something, or John's, then you could say, well, okay, the names are different enough that people aren't going to get confused. So there's lots of ways to address this without getting into a big legal battle. And I guess the owner of Taco John's feels like he's got some rights and he's going to stand on that. And if he wants to waste a bunch of time and money, fending off lawyers instead of running his business, I guess that's his decision.
Well, that was fascinating, but I really, really want to maximize our time with John. So.
Oh, okay. Well,
Let's
it's time to get on to the guest interview. So with us, we have the amazing John Rossman, who's the founder of Rossman Partners and knows a lot about Amazon and business in general. So welcome to the show, John, and please tell us about yourself and your company.
Sure. John Rossman. I am the founder, managing partner of Rossman Partners. We're a strategy firm. We help our clients compete through strategy and through execution. I am a former Amazon leader, so I was at Amazon from early 2002 through late 2005. I launched and scaled the marketplace business, and I'm an author. So I've written 3 books. And although the books sound like they're about Amazon, they're actually about what can we take from a company like Amazon to incorporate into our strategies, into our cultures, into our leadership approach. So the most recent book I wrote is called The Amazon Way, Amazon's 14 Leadership Principles. And it's kind of the story of my time at Amazon and what I took from Amazon. And, my general thesis is that Amazon's the most interesting company of the digital era. And it's partially because of what they do, but it's entirely because of how they do it. Amazon has changed 10,000 times since I've done it, but how they go about their work, how they hold each other accountable, how they think about customers, how they think about invention and scaling, those are exactly the same. And I got to be there when we were kind of forging and founding these principles. And that's what I try to insert into my client work.
So can you go into some detail about some of the things that are translatable from the Amazon business model to, say, a regular entrepreneur's business model?
I can go on for a long time. Yeah. So I think there's now 16 leadership principles at Amazon. The first is probably the most famous, but you can't have just that one. And that's about customer obsession. And it states leaders start with the customer and work backwards. They work vigorously to earn and keep customer trust. And while they pay attention to competitors, they obsess about customers. What I think is the most interesting word in there is the word obsession, right? We could have chosen a more comfortable word, an easier word, like we're customer focused or we care about our customers, something like that. But we picked a really pungent word, a word you know it when you're around it. And what it means is you are willing to invent on behalf of your customers, and you're willing to do really hard things that don't happen typically today in order to improve the customer experience. And that ability to help leaders understand, like, you can't play in just the status quo. You have to be thinking about the future and doing that through the lens of your customer. And whether that's how do we serve the customer broader and deeper today, or reduce the friction of whatever that customer experience is, that's where most innovation and most growth comes from. So that's one. The other one I'll mention is the 14th leadership principle. It's called deliver results. And leaders at Amazon are expected to deliver hard results despite setbacks and despite dependencies. That word dependencies is a really interesting word. We all work in worlds where we're dependent upon others for results, both internally and externally. At Amazon, that's never an excuse. So what you see leaders at Amazon doing is a particular set of kind of habits and techniques and rigor around how do we clearly define how things are going to work with our dependencies, and then work to stay on top of it and make sure that there's no surprises. And so there's lots of great frameworks there, OKRs, things like that. But we took more time in defining the inputs. Most companies focus on, and teams focus on the outputs of what they want to accomplish. They don't focus enough on the inputs. And so how do you actually focus on inputs is a couple of things. So this is what I get to speak to a lot. I do a lot of keynote speaking. And so those are kind of the bookends of the leadership principles. And I can go on from there.
Well, I have a couple of questions for you. First of all, I lived in Seattle when Bezos started Amazon, and it was just a little online bookstore. So was the vision there from the very beginning, or did it grow? Do you know?
Well, I think it's a mixed answer to that. The vision was always to go beyond books. That is super clear. The vision never included Amazon Web Services. The vision never included things like Prime. And so the vision definitely developed, but from the get-go, Bezos said, A, we're going to be the most customer-centric company in the world ever. And B, we are going to be bigger than books. When I was at Amazon, 90% of the business was books, music, video. The first quarter I was there, so holiday 2002, we did $1 billion in revenue. Today, Amazon's a roughly $480 billion revenue organization, right? But again, like how we went about our work is almost exactly the same. I'm always testing like how things happen at Amazon today with, people that are there have just left and everything. And I think that's the real secret unlock is they keep, even though the company is huge, they keep things manageable. They allow people to be accountable and to make a difference by breaking down the business into smaller pieces and syncing it together through leadership principles versus through bureaucracy, through governance, through control. And so if you can figure out how do we gain alignment in how we think about things, then you can let others pursue your mission without as much governance and slowing it down. So speed in an organization like that is absolutely essential. And that's what most big companies lose is they lose speed, they lose accountability, and that's why they get disrupted.
So my second question, I'm sorry, I had one more question. My second question is Amazon really has two diverse sets of clients, right? Or customers. They have people buying things on Amazon and they have people selling things on Amazon. And so you have two different sets of people that you need to service. And there could be overlap because I might sell something, but also buy something. So it seems like you focused on the people buying first and that brought the people selling. Is that kind of how these things work?
Yes. And so that model that you're kind of describing is the flywheel model from Amazon, right? But what we had to do was we had to inject, when I was at Amazon, the customer obsession was there. I had to build a culture of seller obsession, right? Because I needed the third-party sellers to be successful in order to drive the selection that would drive the customer experience, right? Which drove growth. And so we really had to both balance how do we create a great and trusted customer experience that was very different than the king of the marketplaces at the time, which was eBay, and how do I make it feasible for sellers? Because what we're talking about is a very complex choreography of data and rules and policies and systems. And so we were always balancing those aspects of kind of a great trusted customer experience and how to meet sellers to where they were from a capability. So we built a really full-fledged fleet of capabilities, approaches, partners, ecosystems in order to help sellers do a great job at selling at Amazon.
One last thing is you did recognize at Amazon trademark protection. So
well, it's interesting because Amazon comes up often at Gearhart Law. We talk about customer service and how Amazon really set the bar for consumer expectations now. People are expecting to have, seamless payment methods. They're expecting to get, instant delivery. They're expecting a range of options, and they're expecting to see what other people have to say about the products and the services. So Amazon has really raised the bar for a lot of businesses. And it certainly has for me. If I go on a website that's crummy, or if I go into I hardly go into brick and mortar stores anymore, right? Because Amazon is so convenient.
Unless you're returning something to Whole Foods.
Unless I'm returning something to Whole Foods. But it's they don't have the selection, right? And then I have to drive there, and so it's really had a huge impact on business expectations, and
yeah,
I don't think that can be understated.
I saw a funny article one time that was said Amazon invents yesterday delivery, right? And so of course they can't, but I'm sure somebody was thinking about it, right? But we always, in the retail business, right, we always oriented around 3 durable customer needs, which were speed, selection, and convenience, right? Those things never go out of fashion, right? Like, you can't imagine a world where a customer wants higher prices. You can't imagine a world where a customer wants less selection. And you can't imagine a world where a customer wants less convenience. And that's really been the swim lanes in which Amazon has invented and simplified over the past now 27 years. And when I work with businesses on kind of their strategies, one of the things we always focus on is like, well, what do you think, who's your customer? What do you think the durable customer needs are? And so if we can create swim lanes for how we're going to work through strategies and innovation, even if the one specific idea doesn't work, you're kind of staying within the same bumper zones, and you're going to succeed at some point. Amazon has had so many failures, but because they orient them in these same consistent swim lanes, those failures actually build upon each other. So they're really not the failures that they may look like if you look at them on an individual basis.
Wow, that's great information. We have to take a quick commercial break, so we'll be back with more of John Rossman and Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and Kenny Gipson on Passage to Profit. Welcome back, everybody. It's Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and our special guest, John Rossman, who has been at Amazon and knows a thing or two about digital marketing, digital business, and strategy. Kenya, you had a question. What is it that you wanted to ask John?
Yeah, so John, coming from the leadership end of things, what was it like to work with Jeff Bezos, and what would you say is one of the most important things, or the most important thing that you've learned?
Yeah, working with Jeff was great. He was demanding, which I think is completely appropriate. And I think the essence of his expectations was he always expected you to understand your business better than he would be able to figure out. And he would get frustrated if, especially with the senior leadership level, if like he figured something out that you should have understood. He really operated though as like a product manager or as an engineer. He didn't want to be just read to or told what was happening. He wanted to help figure out like, well, how are we doing something, or why are we doing something? I remember one story is when we were, Amazon actually launched, talk about a failure business. Amazon launched a Netflix competing business. It was when mailers and DVDs were still being mailed around, and the team that was building that, they had to build a subscription service in order to do that. And Bezos was always quizzing them like, well, what's the data model? Like, how is that subscription service going to work? Because he was thinking about a future subscription business. And because they built that subscription business in a more generic or fungible manner, that service became the backbone for what became the Amazon Prime and all of their other subscription businesses. And so that's the essence of, instead of just like this kind of command and control mindset, you have to be a builder, right? And so one of the little spiritual things from Amazon is like, we build a culture of builders. A builder is somebody who can articulate what is needed and in some way contribute to that design or the building of it. And so and what I see in too many companies is senior leaders have essentially become bureaucrats, right? Like they're good at HR, they're good at budgeting, they're good at managing risk, but what they're not good at is clearly defining what is it that we should build. And so I help add to their toolkit to like, hey, how are we actually going to build something new, test, do it in an agile manner.
So you were obviously a big part of the strategy and building of Amazon in the early days when people didn't really even know what it was yet. So for entrepreneurs building something early, what are some of the most important things? Like if I just had money to hire one person, say, to help me with something, like what would you advise them to do first steps?
That's very circumstantial to say, well, what is exactly the first step relative to that? But one that is oftentimes a place where people aren't focusing enough is really defining what is the broad customer experience and how am I going to measure as many atomic little aspects of that complete customer experience as possible. And it's not just the customer experience for your product and service, but try to understand the customer experience upstream and downstream from your product or service. And so what I oftentimes find is that smaller companies really aren't figuring out how do we measure and then attain a like as Richard was saying, like this such a trusted and fantastic customer experience through data and through customer obsessions. So that's one. And then I think the other is just, this vigorous habit of defining what the future is. Amazon does that through writing techniques, right? And so the way to have vigorous debate and to think through things is by writing them out. It seems like it's slow, but it's actually the cheapest and fastest way to do experiments, right? And as a small company, what you need to do is do experiments. And the more you can write them out and debate them as a team, and then say, hey, here's 5 potential things. We think this one is the winner. And if you can do that well, you will win because you're better at picking and doing those things as cheaply and early as possible. So those are kind of 2 of the habits from Amazon that I oftentimes find in smaller companies that they're a little sloppy around.
Right. I mean, I can say I can plead guilty to that because when we started Gearhart Law, I just kind of took anybody that came in the door. Right. I mean, I needed to make money. I was, a pike lawyer. Anybody who comes down the pike, I'll help. And at least in the intellectual property field, I didn't go outside of that. But my only goal was to find clients, have them join the firm and then provide the best services that I could for them. And so, thinking about strategy and all of those things were good and important. And I tried to spend some time doing that. But, when I was starting out, it was just really, making sure the mortgage got paid. So, but I really do think that, so how does an entrepreneur kind of balance those things? I mean, if you've got a company that's already generating revenue, then you have more time for that. If you're a smaller entrepreneur, how do you kind of fit that in with the mix of all the other things that you have to do?
Well, Richard, there's no easy answer to that, and you probably did all the right things in those circumstances. But I think having a distinct point of view is always important. Like, how are we going to be different? Sometimes you're able to really early on distinguish and create that point of view. Sometimes you have to earn your way and build your way to that a little bit. But Amazon always had a point of view about customer trust. And that off of that customer trust and customer centricity, we invented so many things. And so I think really having a point of view around who knowing who your customer is and how you're going to be different. And that's the essence of competition, is how do we compete? Because if you don't have a clear point of view on how you're going to compete, guess how you're going to compete? It's going to be on price, right? And so you're going to become a commoditized product. And that's what happens with most businesses over time, is they lose that differentiation, and then they start seeing, margin compression and growth slow down. And those are the signals we have to compete differently. And that's what I help companies do.
So John, I wanted to ask you, I said, well, you help people with internet marketing. You're like, no, that's not right. I help people in the digital space. So there are numerous components to that. What are some of the things that differentiate that from just being online, say?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about the digital era, right? So, probably started when Netscape went public in 1995 to today. And essentially what has happened is we've taken businesses and we've reinvented them, not just with digital technologies, but with a whole mindset of like, how do we integrate a customer experience where it's non-integrated today? And how do we think differently about, traditions and policies and gatekeepers in order to break down, create smoother, better, more effortless customer experiences? And that's the essence of competing in the digital era, which is how do we think more about the customer and the longitudinal customer experience? Where's their friction? Where's their disconnection in that customer experience? And how do we connect it where it's not connected today? Oftentimes that requires digital technology, but oftentimes it's a new business model. It takes pursuing things through a different legal lens. It takes reviewing policies. Just for example, like one of the businesses that Amazon has completely changed is the publishing business, right? So I've written 3 books. Last one's The Amazon Way. I did those on the Kindle Direct Publishing platform. Publishers are traditional gatekeepers, right? They say yes, they say no, they're the tastemaker, and they take 80 to 90% of the profits in the industry. Amazon completely democratized publishing, as it's completely changed it. And that's primarily because of the business model and the distribution model, not because of the technology.
Wow. That's right. That's really great.
And I wish I was as smart as you are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good point. And one of the things that I like about this discussion is that Amazon did it as impressive as a company as they are. They didn't always get it right the first time, right? And they actually had a lot of failures, and it took multiple attempts to crack those nuts, right? And you have to keep trying, you have to keep trying.
That's really the story that I tell in the book, The Amazon Way, which, I was at Amazon from early 2002 to late 2005. What most people remember is really the past 11, 12 years where Amazon stock has done nothing but kind of up and to the right. We had a 9-year period where the stock was essentially flat, right? It was between, went up to 100, then down to 5, and it vacillated between 5 and 40 over a 9-year period. It really took the combination of the marketplace business, the business I played a leadership role in launching, combining it with Prime, combining it with Fulfillment by Amazon, FBA, letting selection and categories fill in, and letting customers come to understand, oh, Amazon isn't just a place for books, music, video, it's a place for anything. And so in 2008, that's when that combination really took off. And guess what? Subsequently, that's when Amazon stopped. But Bezos and Amazon operated by the exact same playbook when things were flat and they were being doubted as they do today, right? I was there when Amazon was called Amazon.bomb, Amazon.con, Amazon.org, because we obviously didn't know how to make money, and everything, right? And you have to be really thoughtful about how you listen to naysayers, because you probably really aren't changing traditions. You're not really reinventing a business model if people aren't complaining about it, if they're not snarky about it, if you aren't getting bad press about your business model, you may not truly be inventing a new business model.
Well, we have time for one more question. So Kenya, we're going to give this one to you.
Thank you. I just really quickly, the digital landscape is changing all the time. There's so many new things that are like coming out. How do you keep up with the digital landscape because it's so ever evolving, so that you can make sure that you're giving your clients the best service and the best resources.
Yeah. So one of the Amazon leadership principles is called Learn and Be Curious. And it reads, leaders are never done learning and always seek to improve themselves. They're curious about new possibilities and act to explore them. And so I vigorously work to educate myself and stay in tune with trends and topics that sound silly today, but I ask like, oh, how could that play forward? You know, if what would I have to believe for that to really change in industry or change in experience or to be truly applicable? And being methodical about how you explore new topics. And if you can do that as a leadership team, you really will create this atmosphere of learning. So one of the little mechanisms from Amazon was having an executive book club. And so we would pick a book and we would read it and we would discuss it as a team. And that's one of the things I oftentimes do with my clients is we pick kind of a book a quarter or something like that. And we read it, and every 2 weeks we get together and we talk about the book and what it might mean for our business. And that's one way to actively explore. But that really, that's the best part of kind of my job, is getting to actively explore new topics, talking to people, listen to people that you don't believe. I think that's one of the, you know, getting out of your echo chamber, listening to and having discourse with things that you don't believe in is one of the active ways of expanding and understanding things.
And I've certainly learned to do that with my lovely co-host here, because she is always the one who's ahead of the curve. And
yes, I took an innovation quiz and I'm a futurist.
That's right. You are a futurist.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I like new things.
Yeah, John. So how can people find you and get your books and learn about what you do?
Yeah, so the books are at Amazon, Kindle, paperback, and Audible. It's The Amazon Way by John Rossman. You can find me on LinkedIn, John Rossman, or my website is rossmanpartners.com. And please don't hesitate to reach out.
Great. Well, we'll be back with more Passage to Profit right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to Passage to Profit. This is Richard Gearhart and Elizabeth Gearhart co-hosting our show, and also with us are Kenya Gipson and John Rossman. So in any case, it is time now for the epimonious power move. So Kenya, please power move away.
So for Power Move, I'm actually going to take it back to our last episode a little bit. We had Jody Krangle, who was talking to us about audio branding. And we were talking about the whole McDonald's jingle and where it came from. And I went back and I did a little research and found out, according to Fortune magazine, the McDonald's jingle actually didn't come from the da-da-da-da-da Justin Timberlake song. It came from a hip hop artist by the name of Pusha T. And he wrote this jingle for them about back in 2003. It says he said he was paid peanuts for it because he didn't know his rights. He never, got a trademark, or he never went into those type of talks with them. And it's been their longest running marketing campaign to date. But the power move here is that he actually was able to co-create with Arby's to do the same thing. So now he's going against McDonald's, and he's been writing jingles for Arby's and going against the fish fillet. So I thought that was a tremendous power move.
Good for him. I hope he has a lawyer this time.
Yeah,
I'm sure he does.
I certainly do. I'm not sure if I mentioned this on the franchising show, but my dad used to work for Ray Kroc and at a different company, not at McDonald's. And when Ray went out to start McDonald's, my dad said, he asked my dad if he wanted to do business with him, and my dad said no. And so he winces every time he sees or saw a McDonald's commercial. So I guess he and the power move guy are both kind of in the same boat. Right. So,
right. But if you've got that creativity, use it, right?
Absolutely.
And protect it. And protect it.
And yeah, I'll take Arby's over McDonald's any day. So
they haven't had anything from either of those places in years.
So what's up with Fireside?
So for those of you who don't know, so Fireside is a video directory of small businesses. And I worked a lot on getting interviews with small business owners during the pandemic. Now I'm working on the back end of the website, which has proven to be a challenge because it's a directory, and almost every website designer, God bless them, because they're right. They say, you got to start with the branding. And it's like, no, not for this. And then you want people to stay on your site, not for this. So it's really hard finding a website person who understands the goals of this project.
So you're going against conventional wisdom.
I'm trying to do something new. And I'm also trying to set it up for the future, which I don't want to talk about because there's things that are like not
That's really true, though.
Software isn't there yet, but we hope it's coming.
That's really true. You've had some very futuristic creative ideas for this.
But I was with my group, my peer advisory board yesterday, and I was talking about a couple of the things like, how do I rank people's websites or people's companies on the website? Like, is it, if it's alphabetical order, it's like pretty much random. You don't want to do that. And they came up with some super good ideas for me, and also good ideas about who could help me do the interviews, because the technology to do them the way I would like to scale is not there yet. So,
well, it's just something I guess you'll have to create. You'll have to get a Bezos mindset and put it out there.
I need a good programmer who's not afraid.
So do you want to introduce Colleen?
Well, Hami's next.
Oh,
sorry.
All right. Well, do you want to introduce?
I absolutely
Hami?
do. So, okay, this is near and dear to Richard's heart because Hami Mahani's company is 6 a.m. Run, and Richard is up working out at 6 a.m. almost every morning. So please tell us what you have, Hami. We're dying to hear this.
Yeah, no. So this is all great. Everything we're hearing. So I'm Hami Mahani, CEO founder of a company called 6amrun.com. I'll try to say the story as quickly as possible. I'm, as I said, 42 years old. I graduated University of Delaware. We're based out here in Wilmington, Delaware in 2002 with a marketing degree in '02. I was on the 5-year plan, did enjoy college for sure. And then, the Google and the internet boom hit, you guys all remember, in 2002. My marketing degree, and I don't want to get into that rant, was basically useless. I was taught TV, newspapers, telemarketing, right? And every job I was getting, these companies wanted to, do Google ads, and Facebook wasn't even around yet, but all marketing really was shifting to the internet. So everything I learned in college was just useless. So fast forward, really built my career in marketing and sales for about 20 some years. You kind of hit that trajectory where you're into fitness you skip out on fitness, you start your family, met my lovely wife, started our family. But I still wanted to have fitness involved. And at about 35, I couldn't play basketball, soccer, sports that I was always playing. So I just started running, and running became 1 mile, became 2, became 3. And basically what had happened was my wife said, listen, you want to run 6 miles and run an hour every single day? This isn't happening at 6 p.m. at night when it's family dinner time. You need to do this in the morning before everyone's up and at them. And we can't afford to have you right now missing dinner. So, and I guess Richard probably knows this too, then it became 6 a.m. runs. What I found out was through doing that, having that accomplishment over my peers, I was getting better tasks. I was getting better promotions. People looked at me as more dependable. I was at work earlier. There was just this mindset that came over me. And it's funny, Bezos, Tim Cook, every book you read about these people, especially the ones on the West Coast, they're up at 4 or 5 in the morning. And you also look at every CEO that's out there. I always joke, but it's also kind of true. None of them are out of shape, overweight, or, and they spend $4 or $5 million just on security, right? So they can be as healthy and present as possible. So there was this whole 6 a.m. thing that I was going through. Also, then I found out I needed some better nutrition to be able to get up, to function, to get through my day. You go to GNC and there was no real nutrition for runners. So I got with the formulator, and 6 a.m. Run became the name out of what the mantra is, but also the nutrition that I feel like people that are putting these long days in, even though I get up at 6 a.m., I got to say, I still only get maybe sometimes 6 to 4 hours of sleep. It's not great, but I need to make sure at least my nutrition is better. And that's how 6 a.m. Run was born. I found a niche in runners that were not marketed to. It's funny, I went to GNC to get nutrition. They didn't have anything for what I needed. Fast forward now 3 years later, and our products are now, we just signed our deal with GNC about 2 months ago, and they released us online at March 1st.
Well, congratulations to
Yeah.
you. Actually,
Thank
I'm
you.
not a 6 a.m. runner. I get up at 5 a.m. and it takes me an hour to convince myself to go out for that 6 a.m. run. So
Are you
I
like me?
drink a lot of
I
coffee
get up.
first.
I get
And
up
do
at 5:30.
emails. What's
Yeah,
that?
I was gonna say I get up at 5:30 and probably stare at my phone for 30
But here's
minutes.
the question for Richard that I really think that you could maybe address. So he has a workout coach, of course, a trainer who comes to the house, and he has him on an eating plan that is mostly animal protein and green vegetables, no dairy, no wheat. And Richard has lost
You're
weight on that.
revealing
But,
a lot of
well,
personal
but no, so
information
let
right
me
now.
finish this question. But now he's going to do a triathlon in a couple days. And
Right.
that's going to be like an hour and a half. Or how long is that going to
I
be?
hope it, I would kiss the sky if it was an hour and
So-
a half, but it's probably going to be more
So-
hour 45 minutes.
So what does he eat for that? Like, so, I mean, I always heard you had to carb up if you're going to go on a long exercise
not
workout.
necessarily. So, and that's the thing, right? At 35 plus, what I realized and what our products contain, and you're going to see this word a lot more in the fitness industry, amino acids. And that's where Richard, myself, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but once you hit 35 plus, your body just naturally doesn't produce the amino acids it used to. And that's for recovery. So I run 7 days a week. I don't run 7 days a week to maintain a weight. For me, my running for about 30 minutes to an hour every day is more meditation. But also your body just is not built to run 7 days a week. So the amino acids that you lose, so more than carbs, more than energy, what I would recommend to Richard, and I can send you guys some stuff this week if you like, selfish plug, of course. But is it going to be the amino acids, some green tea, some natural green tea for some energy? Of course, some carbs, maybe take like a banana, take like a chewy bar, something for some carbohydrates. And then of course, hydration. What we did is we combined green tea caffeine, hydration, and 5,000 milligrams of 12 unique amino acids.
Well, that sounds good. You know, I was having a discussion with my trainer yesterday morning, and he was saying, well, as you get older, your body loses hydration.
Yes.
And then he says your brain starts shrinking because of that. Which
brain
kind of
does
like
not.
flipped me out. You know, I'm 62 years old and I'm not ready to have a shrinking brain just yet.
Well, let's go to somebody else who loves to work out. Kenya,
Sure.
what do you have to say?
Well, I wouldn't say I love to work out. It's weird because I think because people think you're in fitness, that's like your favorite thing to do. I honestly, a lot of the people who I work with, my clients, keep me accountable. And I got into running a few years ago. I've run 3 marathons, wasn't a runner, you know, just in my head, always wanted to accomplish it. So I guess for someone who kind of goes in and out of running, but I cycle a lot and I also teach a lot of cardio classes, what do you recommend for someone who like kind of fluctuates in their exercise patterns in terms of like what they do versus what they're not doing?
No, and again, I hate to sound repetitive, but it's amino acids. It's natural energy in the green tea. You don't want like the Red Bulls and the Mountain Dews and things like that, you know, and the sugars, and stay away from sugars, of course, because, you know, your body doesn't really, you know, break that up. But no, and that's the funny thing. We talked about trademark, you know, we get weightlifters, we get so many people that like us because it's way more clean. I don't want to mention any names, but the first pre-workout I ever bought had me bloated, gassy. It just didn't sit with me. And I also do a fasted workout every morning. I don't like breakfast in my stomach when I work out. I just like to get up and go, be as light as kind of possible. So no, Kenya, whatever, you know, kind of workout you do, I think a little bit of energy with, like I said, some green tea caffeine, regardless if it's running, whatever. And then just, I do a fast, and even lunch. Like when I was in corporate America, it always boggled me that these people went out for like big 12 o'clock lunches, because then I felt useless, you know, the rest of the afternoon. So again, diet and just knowing proportioning what you eat is for sure important, but definitely whatever workout you do, the nutrition aspect is always the biggest crucial key.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I see John nodding his head. So John, what are your comments?
Yeah, fascinating. We're an early morning workout house here. We always have been, and as I've gotten a little older, like I always had kind of the exercise part nailed, but it's what I've always struggled with is the nutritional part. And what I've learned is that as you age, that becomes more and more and more important in this equation and everything. So I appreciate learning what Hami's talking about.
So is this pre-workout stuff, or is that
We now we do it all. When we first started, our first product was our marathon product, which it was an all-in-one. But now we have whey protein. I'm drinking right now. We have a vitamin infused coffee. Think of Centrum, your daily mega vitamins. As more and more, you talk about, and we'll talk. I know in the end we'll have a group session as you talk about more customer service. The customers will tell you what they want, what they need to. Now and we're only 3 years old too, which is really cool, but also scary. But at the same time, it's listening to what the customers also need and what they want. And every time I think now it's as crazy. I don't want to get too many SKUs, but we continue I think every 6 months we have a brand new formula and something new that customers are demanding from us because our other flavors are not our other flavors, our other formulas are so good and perform so well. And that was the one thing we wanted to make sure we do before we release anything, is that everything works. So I'm kind of,
yeah, that's great. I got a couple questions for you. One,
sure.
Are you selling on Amazon? and number two, like, how really are you selling your product? Where is it?
So D2C is we want to keep D2C as our best. Unfortunately, through Amazon, one of our core values, one of the things I learned, if you guys are familiar, I started in the banking industry here in Delaware. It was formerly MBNA when they first started, and it became Bank of America. One of the best things I learned was customer service and community. Now you see Target, Apple, those guys. Amazon, unfortunately, does not let us build that community. Runners, and Kenya, I'm sure you know, and Richard, the runners push each other. I just did the New York City Marathon. People I didn't know who are our customers were on our Facebook group wishing me well. It was crazy. So because of community, that is our number one core value, is to build our community, not even our products. Community and then health and wellness is our two main core values, not selling product and things like that. One of the reasons I met you guys, we started our podcast to create content. So back to your question though, on Amazon, we are on Amazon. There was a mentor of mine who told me though, you never want to rely on a third party to be your retailer. What if Amazon goes out of business tomorrow? What am I going to do? If Amazon is my sole source of selling my product, I'm screwed. Plus, we're not reselling lint brushes from Alibaba. You know what I mean? And we'll get into, I'm sure, more of that on the end discussion here. But we really wanted to keep our D2C as our number one seller. Amazon is probably, and I'll freely admit this, Amazon is probably anywhere between 25 to 40% of our sales on any given month.
Well, I had heard, and I think John can speak to this, that one reason to be on Amazon is really for SEO, for like,
of course.
It is it's like Google almost now, right?
Yes. And I get customers that come to us. Our cheapest way to ship is USPS. And I get customers that come to me all the time and they say, we love you. We are part of this community, but FYI, your shipping sucks. Or USPS sucks. 90% of the time it is good. I have to admit that. And we are customer service. People do get it right away. But there's that one or two people that have a bad experience and they're like, we love you. We're going to go to Amazon to get your products.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Kenya, do you have a question?
I do actually. Just how are you breaking through the clutter of everything that's out there on the market? Because I feel like I've tried a billion different products, pre-workouts. They kind of have felt all the same, but I'm just curious. You sound so different in your model, like what you're doing to break through the clutter.
Yeah. So again, it community helps and everyone shares us. We do a thing called 125% money back guarantee. So basically what we found is nobody really hates our products. People just sometimes, because customer service online is very tough to do. It's not like a retail store where people walk in, right? And I can ask them questions. What do you need? Even though we have like a quiz and a chat, it's very tough. So what we do is 125% money back guarantee. People might buy the wrong formula. And especially because of the pandemic, you can't return an open bottle of an edible substance, right? So we tell them, look, keep that formula that was wrong, give it to a fellow runner, give it to a friend. We'll send you the right thing for free. Trust me, especially being a new company, it sucks eating that cost. I hate that. But now we have an 84% return user rate and retention rate. So the way we've broken through is, again, as crazy as this sounds, is through that, that customer service, people, and the influencers. Let me tell you this right now. We don't go after, when we first started, we have Floyd Mayweather. We had him do a commercial for us. It did not perform, as crazy as this sounds. We thought, go big or go home, right? Fake it till you make it. And Floyd, again, I thank him. And if he's listening to this, we thank you for that commercial. But our biggest influencers have maybe 5,000-10,000 followers. As crazy as that sounds, people don't want the Kim Kardashians and the Rock. They don't want those stars. They love to see the real people say, oh my God, this is what I take. And so what we've done is, and again, Kenya, I don't want to give a long-winded answer, but we find the people that are really trustable. They have that kind of 10 to 20,000 followers on Instagram and Twitter and social. And we go to them and we say, listen, let us send you some product. We love your following. You see their engagement. They might have 10,000 followers, but every post will have like 5,000 likes. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people we target to be our promoters, and we give them free products.
That's great. I think we have time for one more question.
Well, we should throw it to John.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if I have a question. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay.
So what are your plans for the future? Hami, where do you see your company going, and what are some of the challenges you think you face?
Again, and marketing is always a challenge. I mean, there's 72 million runners in the country. And then there's 32, we call them weekend warriors, where they look for marathons, they look for races. New York City Marathon that I just did had, like, they always have about 50,000 registrants. We want to get into retail stores. There's a lot of running retail stores. Again, GNC put us online. Soon we hope to be in GNC stores. There's other stores we're obviously going after, our greens, and we do make some all natural stuff. We'd love to be in a place like Whole Foods and Target. That's just hopefully going to come with natural growth. We got to stay the course. And again, it's just growing. I myself have a book coming out. The one thing I just want to say to people is that 6 a.m. mindset, Newton's law, and I'll just kind of end on this, just moving, keeps people moving. I know it sounds corny, but it is. If people can just go walk, if people can just do some kind of health activity. And that's the other thing we want to do with our content. We really want to promote health. One of the things through the pandemic that helped us, we actually did grow double during the pandemic, because one of the things we said to people was, look, we don't know, and even now, not to get political, and we want this to be an escape for people. But one of the things we wanted to tell people is, look, regardless of Corona, COVID, one thing you can focus on is your health, your diet, your nutrition. So we want people to just focus through us on health and wellness, and taking our products for that. So that's just what we're going to continue to push and do. It's worked. It's not, we're not a unicorn and overnight success or anything. But continuing to find those people that, are like-minded and just continue to keep growing. There's don't get me wrong. There's days where you don't know if the bills are going to get paid, but you got to sometimes believe in the end result, and it's always gotten us through.
So I have to say, I agree with you. If you're not moving, you're dying. That's what I always say to Richard. But so people can find your products at 6amrun.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. So this has been Hami Mahani. You are listening to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, and our special guest today, John Rossman. We will be right back.
So we're not supposed to take a break there.
Oh,
but that's okay.
We're not supposed to take. Okay.
No.
So okay.
So why don't you just keep going?
Okay. So
just say that was Hami Mahani, and then next is Kathleen.
That was Hami Mahani with 6 a.m. Run. And now we have our next presenter, who has a totally different business, but one that is super important too. And her business is called Preferred Networking Solutions. Colleen Valadez helps you find the right networking for yourself. So welcome, Colleen. Tell us all about it.
Thank you so much. It's been so interesting listening to all these people talking, and I'm having plenty of synergistic thoughts that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. So Preferred Networking Solutions is a virtual platform that is used for us to bring together any kind of entrepreneur that wants to expand in any sort of way. So we're not just, here to expand through the source of referrals. But, we found that through the virtual platform, we're bringing in a lot more introverts. So traditional networking was done through these charismatic kind of, successful salespeople who know how to present themselves really well and know how to talk about their product or their services, whatever they are. But there's a lot of really brilliant introverts out there that were getting left behind, that were working behind the scenes and working for other people because they didn't know, how to be an entrepreneur and work in the business and also on the back of the business while creating a culture out there with community, which is what we've been talking about all morning here. Is we're all part of the community. We are the people in your neighborhood. So here we are teaching our entrepreneurs how to relinquish any sort of fear about having to talk in front of someone or project yourself and believe in yourself and just be able to promote yourself so that you can have someone go, oh my God, that person really left a thought for me as I'm walking out of this meeting. I know some people I'd like to introduce them to. And as I'm sitting here in this meeting, listening to everybody talk today, I'm going, oh my God, I know somebody I can introduce, 6 a.m. run to. Wow, I know a lot of people that would like to learn about that. So
Right.
that's what we're in the business for, is to introduce you to someone else and bring a new experience into your life. We're all on this road together. It's a journey. We're all in it together. Our community is together. And if we can do it in a faster and easier way, why the hell not? That's just what we're doing.
Yeah. So how do you encourage people to introduce themselves to each other when they're at a networking event?
You mean virtual networking event?
Virtual networking event.
Okay.
Maybe you could just talk a little bit about how a virtual networking event might work, and then kind of explain if you give any coaching with that.
Absolutely. So, our sessions are only an hour long. We ask everybody to come in and follow the prompts of what we've given them before they come to the meeting. So they're structured. We say, please tell us who you are, how you serve, what you do, how you service your clients. And then weekly, we change up that promotional prompt. So in the old days, it was, tell us who you are, how do you service your clients, what kind of a referral do you need? And it was like that, every week you would hear this every week. And I used to sit in the back of my head thinking, that's not really how we're going to get to know that person. The purpose is to get to know them and like them and trust them. And, that person is saying stuff where you want to get them to know somebody else. So we asked different questions, and especially during the pandemic, everybody needed to laugh a little bit more. So we started developing questions like, what are you binge watching this week? Tell us who you are, tell us what you do, and tell us what you're binge watching this week. And every single time somebody would say something really funny, where the group just, oh, I love that show, this, that, and the other. And it just makes everybody relaxed, engaged, and more comfortable. You just feel more protected that way. So that's kind of what we open up with. And then we talk about, what's going on in the community. What do you guys know about what's going on in the community? What kind of stuff are you involved with this week? What kind of fundraising things are out there? Again, in the old days, you weren't really allowed to talk about organizations that you were fundraising with. We're like, no, we want to know that. We want to know who you're fundraising with. We might want to help you raise some money. So tell us who you're fundraising with. Tell us what else you're partnering on. And nowadays, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people where they have way more than one career. Well, my main career is this, and then when I'm not doing that, this is the other thing I'm doing. So we go through that, and then we have the structure, obviously. You get to play show and tell. Different people get to play show and tell. Now they're going to have to do it, with a PowerPoint presentation, or like how we are right now, just sitting here looking at each other on screen. And all this time that we've been doing these virtual platforms, we are having to have keen senses here, because in the old days, we used to be able to sit there and watch you stand up and project, we had you, your whole body in front of us, whereas now I'm having to look at everybody here on screen and understand you and read you and hear you a little differently because it's coming, through this platform. And so you're not hugging and shaking hands.
Trust me, you wouldn't want to see my whole body. So consider yourself lucky.
It's really funny that you're saying
even fully
that.
clothed. I mean,
It's really funny that you're saying that because as you guys were talking about fitness and running and what source of nutrition you're supposed to take in, it just so happens that I was a fitness trainer for 12 years and I ended that career when I was 52. I'm now 63. And this is another thing that was being asked before we came on, what do you do different? Well, we teach our entrepreneurs, you're not just maybe brilliant and charismatic and really an expert in your field. We call them champions. That's one of the things we say when we open up, or close our meeting. You're a champion in your field, so stay that way, But we also go over nutrition, exercise. We also go over personal development, just like what John was saying. We pull a book a quarter and I provide cliff notes to the book. We pull an author and say, okay, this person's bringing something to the table that we might not have right here in this moment in this chapter. So we're going to bring it on scene with us by going over what these authors are telling us, and we're going to bring it to the group so that everybody is absorbing things equally, and we're raising the bar on ourselves as entrepreneurs because frankly, it's a lonely road, when you're trying to bring it home and be good and increase the money and increase your brand awareness and understand social media and all these different things. You've got this whole team with you making it happen. So we're all leading up together.
Well, Colleen, one of the beauties of virtual is that it doesn't matter where you are. So are you countrywide, worldwide? How far is your reach?
We started this during the pandemic and we grew 10 chapters throughout Los Angeles. However, and when we first started, we had the name Beach District Entrepreneurial Group, but we found out we had to change that because we were expanding. We now have a full-blown chapter in Las Vegas, and that, boy, are they big. Everybody in Las Vegas does everything big, right? They're big entrepreneurs doing big things, raising lots of money, and our Los Angeles team is talking to them all the time. They're flying here, we're flying over there. So right now we are centrally located in the Los Angeles area. However, we had an inquiry just 1 month ago to open up a chapter in Manhattan, New York. So we will be opening that up in the New Jersey, Manhattan area, as well as Phoenix, Arizona, Boise, Idaho, and then we're going to be moving into Colorado. So we are definitely going across the US. We also have partnered with another company that started a strategizing session on a virtual platform, Adapt and Thrive with Brian Fife. And he's teaching people how to strategize on your business and how we're going to grow together. So we're just moving all around the place. And people are moving in and out in so many different states that we said, let's create this like a transitional team. If you're moving from LA to New York, you got a team out there to talk to you, to receive you in. So we're really having fun with this.
That's great. So John, did you have a comment or question?
Well, yeah, it's interesting to note that it's a virtual platform, but you're kind of organized by local chapters. Can you kind of unpack a little bit like what the virtual platform versus a local chapter, like how those two things tie together?
Yeah, so we have neighboring cities. Los Angeles, as you know, is really big. So we have neighboring cities where people have their little to-dos. So if they spend weekly meetings together for 1 hour, if they all live close enough, or the majority of them lives close enough, about once a month, we have multi-chapter mixers where we all come together. And that's something, again, a little bit out of the box. That was not something that entrepreneurs used to do when they had exclusivity rights, in a chapter. Why would I want to go to a mixer that has a competitor of mine in it? So that's something else that we're teaching is, quite frankly, there's room for all, even if it's John's Tacos or, you know, the other taco store. There's room for all, and we don't need
John's
to
or
feel
John's.
John, thank you. We don't need to feel, you know, threatened by that. So what started happening is now we've got entrepreneurs. If we've got two cities right by each other and you meet at a multi-chapter mixer in person, and you like that person, you can do business with them in the other chapter and do introductions in the other chapter. And frankly, it's about the community and the customers and the clients. It's not so much about us coming together. It isn't a given that you're going to get business just because you're in that chapter, but you might meet somebody in another chapter where you go, wow, I really bonded with that person and connected with them. We got some good ideas together and we're going to do some work together. So we monitor that too. And it just gives you a bigger opportunity for expansion.
Right. Kenya?
So just curious, you know, as an group exercise trainer, right? You know, you had the people that would come and go into the back of the room and stay there, and then you have your front row divas. So how do you get the people in networking, right, to kind of move from the back of the room to the front of the room and kind of get over the awkwardness of this whole weird virtual space?
Yeah, so we found that number one, not having to stand up in front of somebody in real life creates a lot less tension for the person on screen. So they might first come on and just have their square black, you know, where you can't really see them or connect with them. But then as they get used to it, anything and everything is repetition. And if you want to be doing something bad enough, you're going to try, and you're going to come on scene. So we give equal questions. We do probing things, but it's that repetition, just like anything else with exercise and, creating a new habit. If you do this as a repetition, you're going to get comfortable, and then you're going to come out of your shell, because nobody really wants to be an introvert. I'm an introvert. People go, you are? How would we know that? You're so, animated and you stand in front of people. Well, no, I am an introvert. I like kind of being an introvert a lot of times, but it's really important for me to be heard too. People want to be heard and validated. So that's how we pull them in, is by little pieces at a time, little questions at a time. And once they realize that we understand who they are, they definitely want to be part of the game. And I'll tell you something really funny. There's a book out there by Gary Chapman called The 5 Love Languages. And I'll ask them, what is yours? Do you know what your partner's love language is? Do you know what's important to them? So the more we know what's important to that shy introvert, what is valuable for them, just like a customer, what are your customers obsessing on? We know what their issues are and what they want to do and what they're hiding behind. So we just plug right in and go and grab them and bring them on board.
Well, that sounds really powerful. Where can people find this? And then we're going to have to wrap this segment up. But what's your website?
It is preferred-networking.com. You can find us there. preferred-networking.com. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Listeners, you are listening to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and our special guest today, John Rossman. We will be right back for more discussion after this.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. I think it's been just an amazing show today. But before we leave, we'd like to hear from our guests if they have any final thoughts. So, John, what's on your mind after hearing all of this?
Well, I think just the power of hearing different ideas, different people, how they're struggling with, gaining customers, being heard in a busy marketplace, creating differentiated product, defining a category for themselves. Like that's what every entrepreneur struggles with, and having a group where you can collaborate on those things and share ideas and get, honest, discerning feedback. Good job doesn't help much, right? Like you actually need people to pressure test your ideas and to give you constructive feedback. I think it's really powerful. And so I've learned a lot in the discussion today.
So what have been some of your challenges? I mean, you're an entrepreneur now running your own business. So maybe you can share with our audience some of the obstacles that you faced.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think writing a book is hard, selling a book is even harder, right? And so, it really is about how do you reach customers with your differentiated point of view and with your brand. And so that goes for whether it's selling books or selling management consulting. And the best thing I've learned is like be crystal clear about what your different point of view, what your value proposition is, and then stick with it and invest the time in small ways and big ways to get out in the market and tell your story. That's why I love formats like this, because it's much more of an open forum, long form. You're in more control of what your point of view is on that. And so, that's a lot of what I've learned about, both, how to get recognized for keynote speaking, how to get invited to help executive teams invent their strategy, how to sell a book called The Amazon Way. Like, you gotta figure out, like, why is it interesting?
So Hami, do you have any thoughts on what John just said, or?
It's at the end of the day, in my opinion, that's the nail on the head. It's marketing and it's reaching your target. There's I don't know how many billion people in the world, and then obviously even in this country, right? And we are, one thing to John's point, as crazy as it sounds, our bounce rate on our website, for example, is 80%, and that's an industry average. So that means 80% of the clicks we pay for just leave without even reading the site. Right? So like, think about how much money that we waste and then just to close. So that's why this type of stuff is so important. You're spending money. And again, we talk about like the lawyers in that Taco Chan, who's winning here? Facebook, Google, all these people that are just banking money, right? And you need these kind of groups, and that's why the mentorships and what we've learned, and I don't want to waste too much time, but it's because this isn't the forum to do that, but just what people have learned, what mistakes they've made and how they fixed it. I am even just that we're 3 years old. I'll just say this last piece. The money we've wasted when I started this business, and this is my first time. I was never a CEO before this, so I would love to help people to learn and avoid the traps that I fell right into.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. Lots of times people will make a mistake, not a legal mistake so much, but some sort of mistake, and I'll tell them, look, I've lost more money with this company than everybody else put together by making, putting money in the wrong spot or hiring a person that wasn't a good fit for the job. And part of the reason we have the program is to help educate entrepreneurs so they hear from different points of view. So Colleen, do you have any particular thoughts along these lines?
Well, I think this has been, for instance, a very powerful session here today, just listening to all this. And I think people need to know that their issues are the same as the rest of our issues, but a leader is you're going to try and take risks. You're going to take risks because how are you going to get the right answer unless you try it out, right? It's like anything in life, just like, making those calculated decisions. We do research and we make decisions and we try it out. If it doesn't work out, we just got to move on. That's what we do. That's what we're here for, is to create. And now we're collectively co-creating. But look at how many people there are around us now that we have access to help us get the right answers at the right time. So if someone's listening to this talk about 6 a.m., amino acid thing, they're going to be, who knew? I got the right answer right away. Wow. Listen,
I just want to stop my brain from shrinking. I mean, this is my big fear now, is that I'm going to have a shrunken brain in a few years. It's already too small.
The one thing I want to add, and John will attest to this before we go, and the only thing I wanted to add in the group discussion is the customer loyalty is the most important. And let me explain this to you. I used this example with a buddy of mine in a conversation the other night. If we're at a mall, and let's say it's a 5-mile long mall, right? And you're at Target, and I say to you, or you're at Gucci, and I say to you, this very similar shirt is at Target 5 miles down for a quarter of the price. You may say to me, I don't feel like walking 5 miles to get the shirt. I want to get it right now here at Gucci, right? We've become a world, and Amazon has proven this, where people don't even want to leave a tab to go to another tab to shop. Think about that.
It's true. That's why we go to Amazon, because
Talk about inertia, right?
So that's the number one thing I wanted to say to John's point is loyalty. And that's what we do. We want to make sure people are loyal to us, because if we don't have their customer loyalty, if they don't come back, whether you can do simple things, keep credit card, we do subscriptions. So that way things are on file, things are on easy. Amazon, even me, I know I can get a bag of chips on Amazon that maybe my grocery store doesn't have. I probably could find that bag of chips less somewhere else. Even me, I'm victim of it, but I'll go to Amazon because I know they have it. I'm a Prime member. They have my information on file and it's at my house in less than a day. Like, think about that.
Yeah, but when that urge for potato chips strikes, I don't know if I can wait a day, but I get your point.
Yes.
Kenya, what are your thoughts?
Sorry, I was on mute. I was going to say, I don't really have anything earth shattering to add to what everyone said. I think today's show was great in that it really helped tap into that real entrepreneurial mindset and like what it takes to get that all worked out in terms of like how wellness plays into that with like the 6 a.m. run and, how strategic planning plays into that with the things that John was talking about and, how self-empowerment through networking, right? What Colleen was talking about really all kind of plays into developing the right mindset for success. So I just love that all this came together and it made total sense for everyone who's on that road to entrepreneurship.
Well, thank you, Kenya. You always do such a great job of summing this up. Kenya is our media maven, and she's one of the most brilliant creatives I know. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I would like to go through everybody's websites again in case anybody missed them. So we have John Rossman, founder of Rossman Partners. Excuse me. He worked at Amazon for a number of years during a strategic growth phase, and he really is a strategy expert and an expert in the digital space. And you can find him or get to him through the amazonway.com, the-amazon-way.com, or you can find him on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think Amazon owes him a lot.
Oh, yeah. And you can buy his books and really see how he does things and like the strategies that he uses and the way he grows things. You can become his client too. If you want.
I love his strategic thinking. I'm going to buy all of his books and I'm going to read them. And then
we
I'm
can
going
make a book club for the law
I'm going
firm.
to start saying this to my team and they're going to think I'm a genius. So.
Well, I think we should make a book club for the law firm. Anyway, and then we had Hami Mahani with 6 a.m. Run. So for all you fitness people out there, he's got nutritional products that help you perform and help you recover. And that's really important for people who like to work out. Yeah. The downside of the 6 a.m. run is that I usually go to bed at like 8 p.m. So there's a backside to that. So
I can get
just,
up early.
Just go to 6amrun.com and you can find his products. And then Colleen Valadez with Preferred Networking Solutions, and her website is preferred-networking.com. And I think that she has taken virtual networking to a whole different level than what we saw earlier. Yeah, I think it's really great. Some of the tools that she uses to break the ice and get people interacting. I think that's so important for networking. So unfortunately, our time has come to an end here and we need to sign off for this week, but we will be back on this station next week with another episode of Passage to Profit. And if you have trouble remembering the name of our show, just imagine walking down a long passage with a pot of gold at the end. Passage to Profit. Before we go, I'd also like to thank the Passage to Profit team, our producer, Noah Fleischman, Alicia Morrissey, our program director, and Mark Wilson, our syndication manager. Our podcast of this show can be found tomorrow, wherever you find your podcasts, and look for the Passage to Profit show. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And remember, while the information you heard during this program is believed to be correct, never take legal steps without consulting an attorney. And remember, enjoy your journey and the road to entrepreneurship. And with that, I'm Richard Gearhart. I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. And we'll be back again next week with another episode of Passage to Profit.